So Suzy, yeah, I've been doing the podcast, and my customer base is really in need of some sober advice. It's different generation, but a lot of the lessons are so important and timeless. And I've been following what you're doing. And, I remember Jack. I think I met you years ago with Jack and your incredible husband. And he was one of the most beautiful human beings I ever met in my life. And I met you through him. And he would tell me about how beautiful you are and how smart and just the most wonderful person. And he told me that you bought something of mine. And I was so happy that I got to be friends with him to see what the example of a really good guy is. Because I didn't have that picture in my mind. I hadn't seen that. And so I'm telling you this because I never really got a chance to tell you that because you were with this really great guy.
I didn't know what a good guy was until I met Jack. I didn't even know. I think I didn't even believe that there was a good man. And in fact, the beginning of our whole marriage was me coming to terms with the fact that a guy could be good.
That. Yeah. And good meaning so admirable that you just felt, how lucky am I to be in his presence, because there's so much that he gives people.
Yeah.
It wasn't his ego.
No.
It was nothing like that. So, and I'm happy to say I met someone that can't be Jack, but he's Marty, and he's a great guy.
I love that you met him and that you had this love. I think it's great. Yeah. It's beautiful.
So thank you very much for sharing him with me and letting me see what great could be.
I shared him, with the world, right? And that's the thing when you're married to somebody like him, is that you have to buy into that relationship, that he doesn't belong to you or the family alone. Yeah. Obviously we came first to him, but he was a citizen of the world.
Yeah. And they had lives, I mean, I just got married 2 years ago and I'm 80. Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
I was finally ready.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes time. And so one of the things I tell people is there's somebody maybe you marry in your 20s. I was married at 19, and then you mature, and there are different phases in your life where you mature to another level and have other kind of relationships. So that's sort of all that I can offer this. But you are so brilliant, and you're incredibly generous. And I say that because I do look at what you're doing now, and I think you don't have to be doing this, right? You could do things that are totally selfish and self-fulfilling. Yeah. And this I'm sure is, but tell everybody a bit of where you are now in your life and what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny, my life, because I think that Jack had been sick for a while. And so he was not secretive about the fact that he was dying. And I think that there was speculation about what I would do with my life, but he knew what I was going to do with my life.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
He never for one second thought I was going to go eat bonbons in Palm Beach, which is a totally legitimate thing to do, by the way. Right. And sometimes I wonder why I'm not doing that. But he knew, that I was going to work more, which is what I really wanted to do. And because when he was sick, everything stopped. So what I have done for the past, since he died 5 years ago, almost 6 years now, is I created a methodology to help you figure out what to do with your life. And I was incredibly lucky that at the moment that methodology came together, and it was really my life's work. I had been working on it in many capacities in my previous life. And at the moment that it was ready to meet the world, I was ready to re-enter the world. And I went to NYU dean at the business school and I said, look, I've got this methodology. It's called Becoming You. It helps you get to the answer of what you should do with your life. I wish I had taken this class in business school. And he said, well, have you ever taught before? And I said, actually, no. And he said, well, let's try a small experiment. And it didn't end up being a small experiment because if you take a class called Becoming You, Crafting the Authentic Life You Want and Need, and you put it in a course catalog for people in their 20s and 30s, if you build it, they will come. And this started what now, looking back, I mean, at the time, I had no idea it was going to become a movement.
Right.
And it did. It started this kind of immediate movement because the methodology worked. And it grew very quickly. And NYU was incredibly gracious in democratizing it and allowing me to teach it in open enrollment. And so,
which is so great.
It was great. I don't know any other school that would have done it. It was beautiful. And so I've been teaching it around the world. I still teach at NYU. I was teaching last night until 9:00. I'm still a professor there, full professor. But I mainly am focused on the different ways that we can get this methodology, which is so helpful to people who feel, for a million good reasons, lost right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we came out of the pandemic. That was the great reset. Then there's AI, which is like, wait, what is there for me anymore? Yeah. And where do I fit in? And then there's this kind of social angst. I mean, there's instability, there's cultural instability, and then there's just general life. And everybody has asked the question, what should I do with my life? Since there have been human beings. And so you put that all together and you've got people saying, okay, I know I want to live a life of purpose. They see people who are living a life of purpose like you, and they think, I want that. But then the big how about how you get there is kind of left hanging in the air like a ripe tomato, and no one knows that how. And so the method that I created is the how. And I'm just like, I am like the purpose doula. I walk people or I bring people through it, and then it gives birth to their purpose. And it's pretty breathtaking work to be a part of because people trust you with their lives, and then you're right there with them, and it's very gratifying. It just makes me want to work more. So we've built it out into an organization, and I think we're just about to hit 20 people, and we're just out there doing this every day.
That is so great.
Yeah.
So I was trying to frame in my mind last night when I was getting ready for bed. I was thinking, typically, my podcast is just a conversation with people like we're having now.
Right.
But I don't want to waste a conversation when what you have to offer is so incredible. So I've actually decided that your website had so many great nuggets, and I'm just going to lift from that and ask you questions from your own website. Okay. Because I think everybody will appreciate that more than I think I told about your fabulous husband and got a flavor for you. And I think if I may, if you don't mind,
love it. Whatever.
I just love everything about this. So first question, because why having a vision isn't enough to be an effective leader? Why?
Well, because it's not, you're just on the top of it. First of all, if you're a leader who just has the vision, eventually everyone's going to hate you because they need you to come down into the trenches and suit them up and help you get there. And I mean, there's this kind of idea that leaders, I hate this idea, frankly, that the leaders are the visionaries and they're on the top of the mountain and they say, I see the future, it's this, and then they don't go and sweat the details with you. And so they, that's for the managers. Like managers are bad little grunty people, but actually you have to be both of those things. And so I think that you have to also do the work of the how, of the why. And the leader's job is to explain why, and then the how of how you get there. So leadership is about both of those things. And if you like the idea of leadership because you just like pontificating from the mountaintop, and there are people who do, then that gets old really quickly for your people.
Yeah.
Really old.
And I don't think they trust in you as much, right? Mm-hmm. So every Monday, I think I get a new idea, which Mondays are hated here.
Yes, I so understand. I do.
And so what happens is if I want to inspire them to come with me again one more time, I have to get dirtier than everybody
That's
else.
right.
And,
That's right.
and that's the only way it works for me. And I think leadership is really tough. I have a personal question. When you were younger, in your teens, younger, or maybe even younger, and you were with your friends, I can pretty much guarantee you were the leader of your little gang.
Yeah, it probably was. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I started to, when I was looking at this, I was thinking, when I was in my 11, 12, I grew up in an Irish Catholic neighborhood, and there were a million kids.
Right.
And for some reason, one day we were all playing together, and there was nothing to do. So I made up a game.
Yeah, yeah.
And then everybody played the game, and they said, "What's the next game, Norma?" And so I had to think of another game.
Yeah.
And basically that's what I do here every day.
That's right. I say, I'm laughing so much because the scariest thing I can say in the office to come down to my team, and the scariest thing I can say is, I had an idea. And then, do you know what I'm saying?
No, that's
and
it.
people are like, no, she's done it again. And but I want to be with them shoulder to shoulder as we bring the idea forward. So yeah, I've always been a bit of a ringleader.
I know. It's exactly. I just knew that. Okay, this one I really like a lot. This is the most common reason people struggle to live the life they really want. What is that?
Expectations. Can I give 4 reasons?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think there's 4 horsemen. I call them the 4 horsemen of dream destruction. They are 4 horses that want to gallop away with your life. And I start them each with an E because I'm a teacher and I need my students to remember them. But so the first is expectations. And these are the expectations that our culture has, our society has, our parents have. Okay, we needed you to be a doctor, or we don't do that in our family. But then we put terrible expectations on ourselves, like, I can't do that. I have an MBA, or I could never do that. I went to college. No, well, actually, you can be a Roomba teacher. Okay, there's no rule against it. So it's expectations that are in our head, and that noise starts very young. Yeah. And even though there's a lot more freedom around it today than there used to be, like when we were coming along, it's still there. It's still there. And you know who gets it almost the worst is first generation. So I have a lot of students whose parents are first generation, and they're at business school or they're in college to fulfill their parents' American dream. And they feel their parents' expectations on them with a weight that is very touching, but heavy.
Yeah.
And then the second E is expedience. Like, it's just easier not to fight for your life. Okay. To have a really fantastic life, the kind of life like that we are very lucky to have right now, where we're feeling very fulfilled and very creative and very, like fecund, right? We're really doing a lot of stuff. Like, it's hard. It's hard. There's spreadsheets to look at. There's bills to pay. Right. There's employees who are not getting along. And it just would be easier to just retire. But even when you're younger, it's easier to do something than cause a fight with your boyfriend. Yeah. And so there's just this expedience factor. Like, I love the city, but it's really expensive to live here. I'm just going to go live in, another, in someplace outside the city, and then you're miserable. I know, I don't want to offend any town, right? But I don't want to, but then you give up this other part of you that was dying to live. Then there's events, which, just get in the way. Like, you get laid off, or you break a leg and it takes you out, or you get some kind of chronic condition or whatever. And then you let your life get sort of taken away by the events that occurred, and you never go get it back. Yeah. And then the final one is this inherent drive for economic security, where, and we're wired this way. Behavioral economics would tell us that we make a decision based on a hard number, even if we don't care about money. So we'll buy a house, we'll live a certain place, we'll take a certain job, we'll go on a certain vacation because of the financial considerations, even when we don't care about the financial considerations all that much. And it's just, these things interrupt our lives. I bet when you were coming along, building your business, you didn't think that much about money. You were just thinking about the creativity. You thought, okay, this doesn't look good for us, but we're going to make it through. And you weren't obsessed by that. Yeah. I think I've got to believe that you just overcame it.
Well, the interesting thing is, I still actually don't think of money in the creative process. Yeah. But I think about money because I'm better at business.
Yeah.
So it's a different, I have a skill set that's more developed, and it allows me not to think about money in everything I do.
Right.
I do, though, I want to make sure economically this is costed properly.
Right.
But all of these are super helpful. And to us, they seem like common sense, but they have a structure to them that changes how powerful they are. And I think that that's what you do really well with this, is that by putting it in a very clear picture, it's easier to kind of identify for us as individuals how to deal with all of this stuff. Okay. Okay, I like this one.
Okay.
So we're heading to another new year.
Right.
It's going to be interesting, right? Every new year is another interesting look at the world ahead. So this one is: try these tips and strategies to help you set practical goals for 2026. How's that one?
I'm not a big believer in setting goals for 2026 because we don't keep them. And then we get really, really depressed. Okay. And then we are like, I was going to lose X weight, or I was going to read this many books. I was going to read a book, and you don't do it. And then you kind of beat yourself up. So those kinds of like, I'm going to do X by X date, I'm not crazy about. I'm better with you following a roadmap where you know your values. And you really know them.
Right.
And you know your aptitudes, what you're good at, and you really know them. And then you sort of have a roadmap along the side with you as you go. And instead of setting these gigantic goals that, you know, something like 90% of people have given up on by February.
Right. You know, it's interesting. I think goals are sort of a superficial kind of attempt at something, but one of the things that I decided, and I don't know what your thoughts are about this, but I decided probably about when I turned 50 that I wanted to live to 120. And I wasn't thinking of it as a joke.
Okay.
But I decided that I really wanted that for a number of reasons. I want to see the future. I love thinking about the future. AI is so embedded in everything I'm doing now, right? And I'm so excited about it. And so many things are changing so quickly that I even more want to live to 120. So I made sure I changed my diet, my exercise routine. And so I'm not 100% all the time on that path, but when I get off, I know the path again because that 120 is such a strong draw. And I also know if it's 110 that I live to, it's more than if I didn't think about a number in the first place, because now I have a purpose and things to do to get there. Yeah. So I think in some ways the new year kind of look at the new year is kind of, what do I want new for myself? And, you know, it has to be some realistic thing so you don't beat yourself up. Right. But I think that having these milestones that you look at, like, so when you turn 50, it's always a big thing. 50 is a big, important. Yes. So what did you think about?
I have this funny thing I do on my birthdays where I say Suzy is blank. So I say Suzy is 50. And I think, you know, the funny thing about it is you thought your whole life you were never going to be 50. Like, that was so old. And then you get to 50 and you think, I remember saying when I was 50, like, I don't feel any different than when I was 20. Right. And now I'm 66. And I'm like, I often have to say to my students, look, I'm 66 and I'm alive. You know, I am not, decrepit. You know, you just keep on living. Now, my mom's 98. She's
that's good.
Right. Tons of stamina. Last time I called her, she was mopping. She's just
I love that.
She's very active. And I think, there's genes in this. But when I turned 50, I think I was like, wait, how did this happen so fast? And then I thought, well, I've only just begun. I have so much more to do. I feel that way right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of my company's values is we have to hurry up. We're late, and that we have got to, and I think that's obviously coming from me.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got stuff to do. And I think I love this Emily Dickinson quote. It's my favorite quote. It was actually in a letter and not in one of her poems, which she said, "We grow not older with the years, but newer every day."
Yes. That's great.
Newer every day. And I'm like, yeah, I think I don't know. I want to be newer every day.
Yeah.
And that means you got to keep, like when AI came along, I sort of had this brief moment where I thought, oh God, here we go again. It reminded me of when the internet came and everybody was like, and I was like, yeah, oh God, everything's going to change. But I started my career sitting in a newsroom on a manual typewriter using whiteout.
Yeah.
And so you just got to keep.
Yeah. And learning new things is really great. I think for me, and you just said the same thing basically, is that turning 50 is the beginning of the best part of your life, right? I mean, so much more.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you take care of yourself, you can really live out those dreams that you have. And it's good fortune. And I think the hardest years are 20s to 35. And that's why everything you're doing so important, because if I think about those years, first of all, I started my business when I was 24 because I thought I knew everything. And I thought, and then there I am hiring people who were so much older than I am. And they're looking at me like, we're not going to pay attention to you. Yeah. Like, what are you telling us to do?
That's right.
And so reality sets, and the 20s are clearly challenging. And so in the 30s,
I remember my 20s and 30s is I was just in pain my entire 20s and 30s. I mean, I was a mess. I was in a terrible marriage with a person who I'm now very dear friends with, but we were the wrong people to get married to each other. We got married way too young. Right. We got married for all the wrong reasons. We had one thing in common. We both liked Brian Ferry. We liked, it was like we had like one song we liked together. So we went to high school together. And then I had my kids I have 4 kids. I had them very, very quickly. And I was working full time. And I would say hot mess would be the words to describe me in my 20s and 30s. I'm so glad it's over.
Rough.
Right.
Yeah. I got married at 19 to someone who was great.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. We got married, I think, because we danced really good together.
Yeah.
And we won dance contests together. I think that was a good reason. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, one time I was actually walking down the street and I said to somebody, I think I might, I was really young I was probably 20. And I said to somebody, I think I'm going to marry Eric. And the person said back to me, all the chicks dig Eric. And I thought, that's a reason.
Yeah, it is definitely true. Okay. This one's really, really good. How to reinvent yourself and live the wealthy, purposeful life that's literally a few clicks away, according to an award-winning business professor.
This sounds like an article that was written about the methodology, the Becoming You methodology.
No, but this is, So you have to really give us this.
Okay.
This is really.
All right, look, my premise is that your purpose lies at the intersection of 3 data sets, if you will. And the first data set is your values, which nobody knows their values. It's very rare for people to actually know their values. You probably do. But in general, people just, if you ask them their values, they state virtues. They'll say fairness, kindness. And these are wonderful virtues, but they're not actually values. There's 16 values and you have to know your values and you have to know them in their rank order. And luckily in my lab, we invented a test for that. It's called the Values Bridge.
I love it.
In 22 minutes, you can know your values.
I love it.
Okay. Then the second data set are your aptitudes. And this is what you're actually good at. I mean, we can wish that we're good at a lot of things. We can wish we're really good at business. We can wish that we're really good with people, but and maybe we are, but maybe we aren't.
Right.
And so when you really love something and you're not good at it, that's called a hobby. Okay. What we're looking for is what you really want to do and you're also good at. And then the third data set is your economically viable interests. What work calls you intellectually and emotionally, but also will pay you according to your value around affluence. These are 3 data sets which are in 3 days, I mean, you could do it by taking our tests and have it pretty quickly. But this is work you've got to do. There's no hack to it. You know, you've got to find out, you've got to face into what your values truly are, what your aptitudes are. And they may not be what you want them to be.
Right.
You may really want to go into a creative field where being a brainstormer is really important. But brainstorming is a cognitive aptitude. And some people have it and some people don't.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make them bad people. It just means that they're good at different things. But if you want to go and do certain kind of work, you've got to know your aptitudes. So you've got to take the tests to find out what they are.
That's a great idea. So how can people get to do this test?
Okay, so there for 4 values, there's one test, the Values Bridge, and you can take the valuesbridge.com and you can go take it. 4 aptitudes, I like 2 different tests. One is called U-Science. I have no skin in the game with it. They happen to be a partner of ours, but it's their own.
Right.
It takes 87 minutes. I will warn you, and it's not inexpensive. It's like $50, but it's so worth it. It's called U-Science.
Yeah, I think
it's worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is data you really want. Then we have another test that's free that tells you where you are on the continuum from individual contributor to leader. Because not everybody is kind of wired to be a leader, and not everybody really wants to be a leader. Some people really want to be individual contributors. Why not find that out?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is called Career Traits Compass, and you can find it on my website. Again, Career Traits Compass on SuzyWelch.com. You can take that test and it's going to tell you where you are on that continuum. And then for your economically viable interest, you know, most people know what kind of work calls them. Is it medicine? Is it fashion? Is it, and then once you know your values and your aptitudes, what kind of work you should be doing within those industries kinds of makes sense. And when you have all that data and you look at the intersection, there it is.
Yeah, very interesting. You know, it is interesting when I ask some younger people, like, well, what would you like to do? Do you see yourself as an entrepreneur? And no, I don't want to be. I'm more than happy to help someone build their. And I think, well, that's really a clear. A person who clearly does not want the burden of the ultimate responsibility, but likes to give and participate and learn from that. And I thought that person knows who they are, what they want. And that's so much more important than living up to other people's expectations. You've got to know
who you are standing still. You know, we never stop to paint this portrait of ourselves standing still. What we do is we say, oh, look, there's those jobs over there. Yeah. I'm going to go wedge myself into the one that's the closest fit. But the other way to do this is to know who you are in your values and your aptitudes and your interests, and then go and look at all the jobs and life paths that may be available to you given who you are. Yeah. Instead of trying to wrench yourself into some kind of...
Yeah, that's such a great advice. I know I'm in reading through some of your things, know thyself. So in my 6th grade class, we had these albums, you might remember, with a little zipper around them, and people would write notes in your album. And my 6th grade teacher wrote in my album, "Know thyself." And I said, what's this? And so I had to go look it up and figure it out. And I thought, what a great gift. And so tell me about you use know thyself.
I think that you can't be first of all, you can't find your purpose unless you know yourself in the details. That's work you have to do.
Right.
But it also makes you so much better as a colleague, and if you're a manager of somebody, and even if you're a partner. I mean, I think that one of the great things about getting married later in life is that by the time you get married, and when older, you know yourself really well, and then you get with somebody else who knows themselves very well, and the relationship is on such solid ground because you can say, look, that's not how I communicate, or look, I'm much more comfortable in this way. And you really have this kind of communication, and you can advocate for yourself and build a shared path forward. Whereas when you're young and both of you are still trying to figure out who you are and you're not comfortable yet with who you are, it can be a bit of a mess.
And then you'll change because you're still evolving. You're still evolving. And it's like, it's so... the timing aspect of getting married, having kids, and all that, it's a little off on kind of the development
it's so
process.
wasted on young people.
It's so true. But But I really liked your approach to know thyself and how important it is, and really understanding what that's about.
Yeah.
So this is another good one: how to lead effectively with people, innovative ideas, and execution.
Yeah. So I have a theory. And my one of my kids is 36. My oldest son is 36, and he was on his way to a job interview yesterday. And I literally just shot it in a text to him. I think there's just three. We struggle with thinking like, what's going to make me successful? You know, how am I going to get ahead? How am I going to build something for myself? And I always say it comes down to three things, just three things. Okay. And I call it PIE. Okay. So the first is the quality of your relationships with people. How do you get along with people? Are you authentic? Do you listen? Are you sociable? Are you enjoyable to be with? It doesn't mean you have to be this bubbly extrovert, but can you have a real conversation? All right. So are you trustworthy? So the first is the quality, not the quantity, but the quality of your relationships with people. That's the P. The second is your ideas. Do you have original ideas? Do you have good ideas? And if you don't, if you're not a big brainstormer, do you help give birth to other people's ideas? Do you hear a beginning of idea and say, tell me more? Are you a midwife to other people's ideas? So you can get along in this world, but if you are not bringing ideas to the table, your own or somebody else's, this is a very big brick wall in front of you.
Yeah.
And then the third is execution, E for execution, which is, do you get stuff done? This is a career killer. You have certainly had people work for you who are wonderful and had good ideas, but couldn't finish anything. And at the end of the day, you said, I can't take it anymore, right? And so execution, like the ability to finish what you say you're going to finish, to do what you say you're going to do, to get things done early and well, this is like gold, okay? Yeah. And so really, like when you're walking into work, you just got to think to yourself, PIE, you know, how are my qualities of relationship with people? Do I stop and ask people how they are? Do I listen? No, I mean, just how do you make people feel? Do I have ideas? Am I engaged mentally? Am I bringing my ideas to the room or somebody else's? Yeah. And do I just do it? Do I get it done?
Yeah. The idea thing, I'm always sort of bring ideas to me. And one of the things I think I learned early on is the more ideas you have, the more ideas you will have.
Yeah, I've heard you say this. I think it's so true.
Maybe for me in my career, out of 20 ideas I'll have about something, maybe if I'm lucky, one will really work.
Right, that's right.
But playing out the scenarios helps me have another idea.
That's right.
And the failure of the idea is not really important as what you learn from putting that, going in that place that you weren't in before.
Yeah, I think that the other piece of that, when people like you who have lots of ideas, is the willingness to say that was a bad idea and just like let it go. Like I tried that idea. I came up with an idea for a product and I brought my whole team through the process of like, how would we build this product out? And they thought, okay, this is the boss's product. And then they were starting to build it out. And I remember saying to them, kill the product. It's not good enough. And I could tell they were totally relieved.
Devastated.
No, they were relieved. They were, because they knew it wasn't a good enough idea.
Oh, okay.
And so, but what I was trying to also demonstrate is bring your ideas. If they're not good enough, also say goodbye to them and move on to more ideas.
I think a lot of times though, and I wonder what you think about this, is that we start with an idea and I think, this could be a time for this idea to evolve a little bit because it's a little flat. We can go here and get a little bit. And people are very tied in to staying with what it is, not changing it because it's sort of unsettling, I guess.
There's this ego attachment to it. Yeah.
And then saying, you know what, it's not working. Let's do something else.
Right.
Or I'll do a collection and I'll say that whole third delivery is no good.
Yeah.
It's great at another time and place. It's beautiful. We got to get rid of it. And they're like, what? We worked so hard on it. And it's like, it's not right. And so part of life is editing what doesn't work.
That's so true. I mean, one of the smartest people I've ever known in my life said that the one thing that all successful people have in common is their propensity, their proclivity to cut their losses early.
Yeah.
And you just sort of say, okay, I put a lot of money into it. I put a lot of time into it. It is not working. Let's carry on.
Well, because when you let it go further, it's like
I know.
not pretty.
Right. That's right.
Doesn't feel good when it gets that bad. Okay. This is really a good one because this, I think, is very important at this time in our world. How do you find joy?
I think joy is not a goal. I think it's a byproduct. So I think joy is a byproduct of a meaningful life. And so, you could have everything in the world kind of lined up for happiness or joy. You could have like the perfect house and the perfect marriage, and then something can go completely off the rails. Somebody could get sick. Okay. You could get sick. And so the way I think about it is if you go for a life that has meaning, that is most likely going to be the closest you get to it. And the byproduct will be joy. And then the beautiful thing, of course, is that you spread joy you never keep inside. So I think that's why my whole work is around finding your purpose, because when you're finding your purpose and living a path towards your purpose, you're having a meaningful life. And it's more likely in that case that joy will come along with it.
And then dachshunds.
Yes, and dachshunds.
Give us
actually
joy.
The short answer is it's just dachshunds. more dachshunds. I can't believe I was in my 60s. I mean, I had like an inkling. I always had gigantic dogs.
Right.
I had a Mastiff. I've had Great Pyrenees. I have 2 Shepherds now. And when the rescue called me and said, like, okay, we have this hoarding case. We've got 65 dachshunds coming in. And I was like, I'll take a look at a dachshund.
I'm so glad you didn't call me.
I know.
Because I would be taking the 65.
I hate the day that I took one dachshund. Like, I didn't understand. I was not yet initiated, but then I brought him home the first day and he slept on the top of my head. And I was like, yes. So then, and now honestly, I just surf surf the rescue sites for dachshunds. I mean, like, when is the next shipment coming? And it's hard because they get scooped up instantly.
They're very popular because, I mean, where can you get a kiss on demand at any time?
And even not on demand.
Right. And there's the most affectionate, hysterically funny,
personality,
adorable.
No,
and they're like, you could pick them up and swoop them up, and they're just so great.
You're making me miss Pierre. I mean, it's just, and when you're not with them, you're just.
I know.
I can't stand it.
I used to bring him in, but the problem is then nobody gets their work.
And also I have Pierre at the office with me, but then I have to say to people, Pierre is my dog. Okay, so get your hands off of him. Okay, you're not taking him home with you, and so you have to get.
I had a dachshund, and I will stop the dachshund.
I know, because it's dangerous. It's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing. Yeah, right.
But I had a dachshund before, Wally Kamali, and he would come to work every day.
Yes.
And I don't know why he would do this. I did not train him to do this. He would go into everybody's purse and either take money, jewelry, all kinds of like things like that. So he was a
klepto dachshund.
And he would bring it and put it under my desk. And so I would see these piles of things I'm like, oh my God, Zeke, what are you doing? And they each have these incredible personalities.
That's right. So that's the joy equation right there. Right. Just get a dachshund.
So
find your purpose, get a dachshund.
If you want to laugh and just have like the best time. Okay. So this is really the core of what you're doing. Yeah. Suzy offers uncommon advice for recent grads. This is a good one. This is so important, I think, to Gen Z.
Yes.
This is a very, this is a great generation.
Yeah.
I think they're extraordinary.
Yeah.
And they have this burden that is also extraordinary.
It's huge. Yeah.
So let's see.
Look, I teach Gen Z, so I know them well. I'm with them every day. And I, at first, of course, was just very struck with the differences that we had in the way we were thinking about the world and the assumptions we entered the world with. And then I started to work with them on finding their purpose. And I was so gobsmacked by their lack of hope. and their sense of the weight on them. I mean, when I was their age, I was like, anything's possible. Here I come. And they don't have that sense. And I understand why. AI is a scary tsunami coming towards their jobs. And there's a sense that the bottom could fall out at any moment. So I do think that it's a scary time and a difficult time. And so it's actually very gratifying for me to be in work that's trying to help them navigate that.
Yeah.
But we have to look at some very difficult numbers. And so I know, because of the data that we have from the Values Bridge, which 100,000 people have taken. So I know what the values are of Gen Z, and I know what the values are of the people trying to hire them, hire young people. And those don't line up. Okay.
Yeah.
So Gen Z values what we call eudaimonia, that's self-care, personal flourishing, leisure and recreation. And then they value authentic self-expression, and they value the feeling of helping people. And what hiring companies are looking for is their own values, which are achievement, work centrism, what we call scope, which is action and stimulation. And that's the old model. Okay. That's how you got ahead. That's how you built a company. And some companies fully embrace that, like NVIDIA does, for instance, and many, and Google does. But what we've got is the vast majority, 98% of Gen Z, which presents with a different set of values. And those values are in search of a company that wants them. And so, first of all, the job market is shrinking. And then on top of it, you layer on top of it that Gen Z generally holds dear values that are not particularly appreciated by hiring managers. And this is true conflict.
For sure.
It really is.
It really is. And so I think whenever I'm asked by anybody who's in that, having that conflict, it's hard because I have old values about excellence and you know, doing these driven expectancies of success in what you can do for others, what you can do. But I really think there's a synergy. I'm curious to what you think about this. I think there's a synergy. I don't think there's an accident about Gen Z having this self-preservation, self-appreciation, and this understanding of leisure, balance, all of that. And I really believe, from everything I know about AI and everything that is being developed in that AI path, is that we're going in that direction, because AI assistance, AI robotics, everything is maybe taking some jobs, but also creating opportunities in the leisure world, and also opportunities for leisure.
Right. I think that that's the best case scenario. I mean, I think that of different scenarios, it takes more jobs. And so people will have leisure. It will be harder to make money. And so the problem with leisure and self-care is that they require money.
Yeah.
I think that this is the gigantic question mark. And I think maybe you're right. And wouldn't it be great if you were, is that the people who have the values that kind of fit a lifestyle where work is less prominent may be coming along at a time where work is going to be less prominent because AI is emerging.
Right.
And if we can work out the economics of it, then that would be great.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe it's with some kind of universal income or something like that. I don't know.
I think that, I'm certainly don't have the answers, but I think there's a synergy to that. That's not accidental. I mean, these are two profound changes in the work ethic.
Right.
And I think there's more chances for people who give great massages or trainers or, that kind of less corporate positions also, because I think Gen Z is certainly not corporate. They're certainly not in that mindset. So, and I think there will emerge somehow. I'm very optimistic about them. For real reasons. I'm optimistic, and I think they will come up with things. but they're in conflict with this time
right
so
now. This may be just a moment in time.
Exactly.
And it
you
may work
doing
itself
that
out.
is exactly
right. Yeah, that's what it is. But we're in that. We're in this right now.
Yeah. Totally. So it's, but I want to help them.
Yes.
But you are helping them.
Well, I mean, I think we are all trying to do our part helping them. Sometimes I'm just the messenger and of things that are tough for them to hear.
Right.
And when they say to me, well, should I change my values and, take on your values? I said, do not do that because you can't fake your values.
Yeah.
But, you need to build a bridge. If you want to get a job, you're going to have to build a bridge with the people who you're working with, who have those values.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, very interesting. Do you see a difference, since we're in this generation, and do you see a difference between the men, the young men and the young women, from what typically was the roles, the personalities? I mean, I'm finding some very significant differences.
Yes.
What are your
So we have data on this. I mean, I think it's not, we have incredible data on this. And the one thing that's shocking to me is that for young men, the value of marriage is much higher than it is for young women.
I know.
I mean, 7 times higher. Yeah. So a young man is much more likely to say that he has the value of belovedness, which is the value of marriage or a partner relationship, in their top 5 values, where young women in their 20s, 30s, and early 40s have it down in their bottom 3 values. And I'm pondering this. First of all, the cultural narrative is that women want to get married, or at least it was when you and I were coming along. Women want to get married, and men are sort of like, no, I'm not ready yet. Mm-hmm. But actually, that's not true. Right now, if you were just to look at it, men see that marriage is a more attractive thing, and women are, I'm not so sure. And you can have a lot of thoughts about why that might be.
Yeah.
A lot of thoughts about why that might be. Part of it is that some women used to get married because they needed financial security because they didn't have jobs.
Mostly.
And now they look at the deal that they're getting and they're saying, I'm not so sure I want to sign up for that. Look, I had a splendidly happy marriage, and I believe in marriage. And I believe when you find the right person you're married, it could be the greatest experience of your life. But I certainly, I'm not going to say willy-nilly everyone should get married. And I think there are a lot of women who are rethinking marriage.
Yeah.
So that's one big difference that we see. We also see a difference between the importance of friends, with women having it as a much higher value than men. Men definitely have a lower value of what we call belonging than women do. Yeah. So we see lots of differences.
Yeah, very interesting. And since you really are an observer and a participant in their world, what advice, if you have advice for this, and I'm sure you do, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it. The comments that you hear more and more, young women and young men, if you talk to them separately, and I have the opportunity to do that, I hear young women here saying, dating is just impossible. They're all assholes.
Right.
There's it's just, I can't do it.
Right.
And then the guys will say, my heart is broken so often.
Right.
I've been turned away so many times. I've been rejected, dejected.
Right.
And I think, what is happening?
Yes, I know.
What's happening, Suzy?
Okay, so I want to say first that I hear from the young women my daughters, and one of them's married now, but my single daughter and the women who work for me, that the dating scene is criminal, and the guys are jerks and so forth. I think that young men are having not a good experience of it all. Yeah. Also, I less understand that. I just think that actually sort of dating online, which seems so efficient, probably is something that just doesn't work. No. Okay. So I think what's happening is that there's no more trust between men and women. Like there was a time, and I think there still are cultural pockets where people think, yeah, it's really good to get married and get married young and build your family. Right. And now there's just so many questions. And I think for so many young people, that just feels so hard that it doesn't have the same kind of, it asks of you a kind of sincerity and hopefulness that is coming very hard to this generation.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. But I do, I feel there's a certain, and I'm all pro women, as you know, everything I do is about women for women, but I've become very sympathetic to young men who are very sensitive.
I know.
And they're expressing their sensitivity more. And they have a point, and I want to say this out loud because I'm in the fashion industry and I'm in this visual thing. But if you go to restaurants where there's a lot of young people, you'll see tables of girls with their friends, not dates, and they're taking pictures of each other, taking pictures of the food, having all kinds of setups, and they're all having a good time taking pictures. And you'll see some tables where they're on dates. And so here's a guy, a girl, and they're taking pictures of each other, and they're all ha ha ha, and the guys are just looking at each other.
I know.
And I'm wondering, there's such power in the opportunities in being a creator, a content creator, or an influencer. And there's this thing about taking pictures, and it's visual and all of this stuff. But are we getting in the way of what we want to be as women inside, and that really even rejecting the possibility of a great conversation or an intimate conversation or an interaction with guys that we may have things in common with or not? What's going on, Suzy?
So, I mean, I can only guess,
Yes, but you're an observer and you're smart.
Right, so thank you. I think that what's going on is generally among women a lack of belief in marriage, in that they've seen their parents' marriages bust up. They've seen couples that they loved on TV. They are the perfect couple, or a famous artists who were married to each other. And then it blows up and it blows up.
Yeah.
But your friends, your girlfriends are a safe place. And so you get very performative with them, and you basically send out to the world a bunch of messages that says, look how happy I am with my girlfriends.
Yeah.
And to then enter into a relationship with a man where you expose your vulnerability feels very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
It feels very fraught. And how much risk do you want to take on? Who wants to keep being hurt? Like I said, it takes a kind of sincerity and vulnerability. And to step into an intimate relationship where you say, okay, I'm going to trust this. That was actually the hardest thing about Jack, is like, it was when I got with him, I was like, I just kept on thinking I'm going to hedge my bets. And then I just thought, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be real with him. And I'm just going to give it my all. And we put the marriage first. But that's what it kind of takes, where it's like, one thing I love that my son, who's 36, and his wife do, is when the kids start getting really difficult or something gets fraught, they look at each other and they do this very sincere, almost cringy thing where they go, one team. They say to each other, one team, and then they fist bump.
That's very good.
Isn't that good?
That's amazing.
What they are like, it is their team. They go, one team. And I saw them doing it when the kids were having a meltdown and I was in the kitchen doing something and the kids were screaming and they looked at each other and went, one team. But it's that kind of belief in the relationship.
Yeah.
And that belief that a two-person universe could exist is, you got to let go a little bit of disbelief that the world has sort of rightly put into you. And I mean, like, romance is a very hard thing to say that you believe in. All right, it all comes back to Taylor Swift. But if you think about it, in her last album, she said, when I said to you that I didn't believe in marriage, that was a lie. Okay. And so she's admitting this thing that a lot of women say, like, oh, I don't believe in marriage. I don't believe in marriage. But inside there's this little voice. It's like, but maybe. But it's hard to access that little voice because you're letting yourself be so vulnerable.
Yeah. The pain could be pretty.
Well, you go out into the dating world and the guy you've been chatting with for 2 weeks then ghosts you.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't show up for the date. Yeah. Or like my daughter went out on a date with a guy and he just seemed so fantastic. And she's like, this is like the best guy I've been chatting with. And then they got to dinner and he looked across the table and he said to her, hey, do you do shrooms? And that was what he wanted to do the whole rest of the night. Okay. And she was like, is there just not one guy who wants to have a normal dinner?
Yeah.
And I think you have that happen enough times. And it's really hard then to keep coming back to get punched in the nose.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think the ideal of what romance is about has never been true.
Right. Yeah.
If you really get down to it.
That's
but
right.
Social media reveals the fallacy of what that is.
Right.
And if I think about, well, we were both married young. And so I was married for 10 years. I got married at 19. By 29, I was single.
Right.
And I thought, I'm not doing that again.
Right.
I mean, who needs that? And
you didn't need it. And the thing is, you didn't need it, right?
So, and I thought, you know what? I love my career.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm one of those women that can be a single mom and run a business.
Right.
I don't want to ruin a human being's life.
Right.
I'm so obsessed with this.
Yeah.
It would just be selfish.
Right.
And so I started to date. And in my mind, I didn't want to get married. So I clearly did not pick marriage material.
Right.
I can't even describe what I picked. It was too embarrassing to even relay what it was all
It
about.
sounds like a very good memoir.
And it goes from one to the next to the next. And some were 2-year, like I would have 2-year relationships where then I would have to really reveal my real self.
Yeah.
And that, I could only be a fraud for 2 years.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't carry it any further. And then it would just got worse and worse.
Yeah.
And then I think it got to the point, it gets to the point where your honesty about everything just comes out. But I don't believe that there has ever been this scenario of not feeling pain, not having embarrassing situations, not being rejected. I mean, being rejected by jerks is the norm. It's the jerkiest jerk that is going to reject you, and you think, that idiot rejected me. Like what's? But I think that I don't think that there was a time when it was always so perfect.
No, if you look at Jane Austen, it was worse. I mean, it was like, I look at Jane Austen, I say, like, why don't they just tell each other the truth? And the answer is nobody ever told each other the truth. So I don't think it was ever, but it's everything's so amplified now because it's played out kind of publicly.
Yes. So I guess the bottom line is everybody that you touch is very lucky to have your presence and all you have to offer. I'm listening to you on audiobooks while I sketch. So when I'm in my deep sketch, I'm really enjoying it because the logic and the sober kind of way you look at everything and communicate is so refreshing and so healthy.
I mean, to have you say this to me is just, I want to have a pinch myself because you're my idol. And so thank you very much.
It is so true. And I just think the more you do what you're doing, the better it is for everyone. And I'm so happy I was saying, I hope I can get Suzy. I know there are a lot of people. When the call
came in, I was like, is this some kind of joke? I was so excited.
No, so I'm so glad you came, and this was so helpful. But we're going to put all the information about how to find you, where you are, whatever if you give us your schedule of what you're doing.
All right.
So that everybody can access you. And I could speak with you for ever and ever.
I know. Let's have dinner right
now. We definitely have to do that. Right. So nice. Thank you
for
so
having
much,
me.
Suzy.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, press follow and leave a comment after you listen to the podcast. Thanks.